You're listening to Rolling Recklessly, the podcast where dice hit the floor, paint gets spilled, and no game ever goes exactly as planned. I'm Grizzly, and here we dive headfirst into Warhammer, tabletop gaming, and the beautiful mess that is the hobby life. From epic crits to absolute disasters, we'll cover it all. So grab your minis, roll with me, and let's get reckless. Welcome back to Rolling Recklessly, the podcast where we dive into the world of Warhammer, tabletop gaming, and all things hobby. I'm your host Robert, aka Grizzly, and today's episode is all about something that every Warhammer player faces sooner or later: how to choose your army. Whether you're brand new to Age of Sigmar or you're looking to start a second or maybe even third faction, this episode will walk you through the key things that I think about whenever I'm picking an army, from the rule of cool to accessibility, playstyle, lore, and some extra considerations that might not seem exciting but can save you a lot of headache down the road. The first thing I always look at when I'm starting an army is what I call the rule of cool. This one's pretty simple. Pick something that makes you stop and go, wow, that's awesome. I need that on my table. Because let's be honest, this hobby is a commitment. You're going to spend hours clipping sprues, gluing pieces, and painting details, and finally rolling the dice with these models. If you don't love how they look, you're going to burn out before you can even finish your first unit. For me, the rule of cool led me straight to the Sylvaneth. Back when me and my girlfriend were still new to the hobby, a game store employee at Funkatronics told us to go home and research all the different factions. So I did, and that's when I first saw the Sylvaneth. The models that immediately grabbed me was Alariel the Everqueen. Seeing this goddess of life perched on her massive beetle, looking both elegant and terrifying, hooked me instantly. She looked like something out of myth. I knew right then that if I was going to play Age of Sigmar, it had to be Sylvaneth. From there, the rest of the army just clicked with me. Ancient living trees walking to war, guardians of the natural world, they were unlike anything I'd seen before. And it wasn't just the models, their philosophy resonated with me too. Protectors of Ghyran, striking back against the corruption. Nature is both healer and avenger. That's what makes the rule of cool so powerful. Maybe for you it's the Stormcast or Nurgle or the Gloomspite Gits. Whatever it is, that gut reaction is worth trusting. Because when you're 10 hours into painting bark or armor plates, the things like that will keep you going isn't efficiency or cost. It's the love of the models you choose. So don't stress about picking the best army. Pick the one that excites you. The rule of cool will carry you through far longer than any meta list or bargain box. The next thing I think about when starting an army is the accessibility of the models. This part isn't as flashy as the rule of cool, but it's really important, because even if you love an army, if it's hard to find the models, or if the rules are locked behind a paywall, it can be a real roadblock. Some armies are incredibly easy to start. Take Stormcast Eternals. They're everywhere. Starter sets, spearhead boxes, you name it. You'll never struggle to find the models. But other armies can be trickier. Older sculpts like the old Skaven kits, or discontinued factions like Tomb Kings or Beast of Chaos can leave you hunting across eBay or even paying inflated prices. One of the best ways to start an army is to grab either one of the seasonal army boxes or a major launch set box. These are usually mass-produced and stick around for a while. Think about the Skaventide box. It's everywhere right now, and you'll probably keep seeing those models pop up at second-hand stores for months, even years. These big boxes usually include key models that you'll use for your army. When evaluating them, always ask yourself two questions. 1. What's the value compared to buying the kit separately? And 2. How available are these units if I want to expand later? When I started the Sylvaneth, I found the Wargrove Revenant box on eBay for about $200. It was perfect. It came with 2 different tree lords and all the bits to build multiple variants, plus a great mix of supporting units. The one box that gave me a foundation that I could build on for a long time. Other great examples are the Seraphon army box, which had multiple battle line units, cavalry, and even a slan, the literal brain of the army. And then the Flesh Eater Quartz box, which is packed in several battle line units, cavalry, and 2 heroes, the Gore Warden and the Vargulf. These boxes are worth their weight in gold for new players because they give you a variety, strong value, and instant playability. But models are just half the picture. You also need to think about the rule accessibility. Right now, some armies are running on index rules, which are free and available online, while others require you to buy a full battle tome to unlock all their war scrolls, allegiance abilities, and lore. For beginners, index rules are great because they let you start out without spending any extra, But if your chosen army only has a battle tome, then that's an additional cost. So accessibility isn't just about what you can buy, it's also about how easily you can play. When you're picking your army, think about whether these models are widely available, if there are any good seasonal boxes, and whether you can get the rules you need without a hassle. That can make the difference between smooth sailing and a frustrating start. The next thing I look at when I'm choosing an army are the Warscrolls and the playstyles. Every faction in Age of Sigmar has its own feel on the table. Some armies rush across the board and overwhelm you with speed and aggression, while others hold the lines with durable blocks of troops. Some flood the tables with hordes, while others hit hard with a few elite units. That's why it's so important to ask yourself, how do I like to play? Do you want to grind your opponent down, outmaneuver them, or go all in on one big strike? Picking an army that matches your playstyle makes the games way more fun. For me, the Sylvaneth checked every box. I love their guerrilla warfare tactics, teleporting through the woods, striking where the enemy least expects, and using the table itself as a weapon. It makes every game feel like a puzzle, where I'm choosing when and where to strike. And then there are the centerpiece models. The Spirit of Durthu, swinging the massive sword, is just iconic. And of course, Alarielle, the Everqueen herself, a little goddess of life, marching into battle on her beetle, turning the tide with her magic and presence. And while we're on the topic of Durthu, his Warscroll is one of my favorites because it shows just how perfectly the Sylvaneth fight. He's versatile, with both range and melee options. His Verdant Blast gives him 5 range attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s with a 1 rend and 2 damage apiece. It's a nice way to soften up your targets before he closes in. But when he gets into melee, that's where he becomes really terrifying. His Guardian Sword has 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s with a -2 rend, and an incredible 5 damage per strike. Add that to his massive Impaling Talons, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, 2 rend and 3 damage each, and if he's near a wildwood, he gets +1 to hit, making him even deadlier. Durthu feels like a living embodiment of the Sylvaneth playstyle. Strike from the woods, devastate the army, and then back into the trees. To give you another idea of how different armies can feel, Maggotkin of Nurgle are all about resilience. They're slow, but incredibly hard to shift. They grind opponents down while spreading contagion. The Kharadron Overlords focus on range dominance, flying ships, sky cannons, and a devastating alpha strike. The Auric war clans are pure aggression. They charge forward and smash face with brute strength. Skaven are unpredictable, massive hordes backed by war machines that might win you the game or blow themselves up. Each one plays in a completely different and unique way, so picking what fits your personality is key. If you're not sure what playstyle you'll enjoy, don't be afraid to test things out. Watch battle reports, use tools like the Warscroll Builder to the Theory Craft list, or even try proxying models before you commit. One of the best ways to dip your toes in right now is with Spearhead. It's a smaller scale format that uses different war scrolls, but the armies still feel like themselves. Spearhead captures the essence of how an army plays in a full Age of Sigmar 4th edition game, so if you enjoy an army of Spearhead, chances are you'll like them at the full size too. It's a low stakes way to see if an army feels right for you before diving straight into a 2,000 point game. So when you're picking your army, don't just stop and see how they look, think about how they play. Test things out if you can, because even if your army's playstyle feels like a natural extension of you, that's when the game really shines. And I'll say this from experience, nothing feels worse than spending weeks building and painting an army, only to realize how much you hate it plays on the table. Do yourself a favor and test before you invest. The next thing I like to consider after looking at an army's playstyle is their lore and identity of the army. Because while the models and rules are important, the story behind them can make a huge difference in how connected you feel to your collection. One thing I love about Age of Sigmar is that armies aren't just stats on a page. They've got histories, tragedies, and victories that make them feel alive. And when that story matches how the army plays out, it takes the game to another level. For me, the Sylvaneth hit this perfectly. Their lore is dramatic, tragic, and resilient all at once. One of my favorite arcs is the invasion of Ghyran by Nurgle. Alarielle was dragged into despair, captured by Nurgle's forces. The Lady of Vines carried her sea pod and escaped from Torglug the Despised, keeping the spark of hope alive. Eventually, Alarielle was reborn into her war aspect, no longer just the goddess of life and renewal, but also vengeance. On the table, that matches how Sylvaneth play. Guardians who disappear and strike, grow back even stronger. I also love diving into other armies' lores and stories. The Seraphon are incredible, not just because of their dinosaur-riding warriors, but because of their cosmic purpose. They're servants of the Old Ones, waging war in perfect celestial order. And then you've got Lord Croak, who literally died back in the world that was, but continued to fight across the ages through sheer willpower. That mythic, eternal fight is one of the coolest parts of their lore. And then there's the Kharadron Overlords. Normally I'm not a dwarf guy, but the Kharadron are different. They built a whole society in the skies, driven by strict codes, capitalism, and profit. What really hooked me was their disdain for their gods. They feel abandoned, so they decided that they don't need them. Their ships, their ingenuity, and their rules are enough. That kind of self-reliance really feels unique in a world full of divine beings. And lore isn't just for background reading. It can shape how you actually play. That's something me and my girlfriend Casey really enjoy. She plays Nurgle and I play Sylvaneth. And because those armies are natural rivals in the lore, it adds that extra layer of storytelling to our games. It's not just about winning or losing, it's about carrying on that struggle from the mortal realms. So if you're like us, and you want your games to have a strong narrative feel, lore can even help you choose your army. Picking factions that clash or connect in storyline makes the tabletop battles much more cinematic and memorable. And that's what I love about Age of Sigmar. Every army has a story, and when you find the ones that resonate with you, it's not just about rolling dice. It's about continuing the saga. For me, Sylvaneth are both my passion on the table and in the lore, but I love that in every faction has that depth, whether it's Nurgle's cheerful corruption, Seraphon's cosmic war, or the Kharadron's skyborn capitalism. So when you're picking your army, don't just ask how they play, ask yourself if their story speaks to you. Because when the lore and the playstyle line up, that's when every battle feels like it's part of something that's much bigger. The last thing I think about when starting an army are the extra considerations. These aren't flashy as models, rules, or lore, but they make a big difference once you're deep into the hobby. Here are a few things that I always keep in mind. Not every army hits your wallet the same way. Armies with strong spearheads or start collecting boxes are much easier to jump into without breaking the bank. Others, especially if they lean heavily on big centerpiece models, can get expensive quickly. For example, Stormcast and Skaven are everywhere. It's easy to find bundles or deals. A counterexample of this would be the Soulblight Gravelords. They're awesome, but if you want to build a big horde of skeletons or zombies, you'll be buying and painting a lot of models. My Sylvaneth start was a budget-friendly, and thanks to the Wargrown Revenant box that I got for about $200, I had a variety and value, which made the entry cost manageable. Painting style is another huge factor to consider. Every army paints differently. Stormcast, lots of armor, great for metallics and batch painting. Nurgle, messy, organic textures, great if you like experimenting, but time-consuming. Skaven, tons of models, so you need patience for big hordes. Sylvaneth can be challenging. Bark textures, leaves, and lots of details, but they let me get creative. I love doing seasonal themes like autumn or winter trees, which keep things fun. Look at your local game scene. If everyone's playing the same army, maybe you want something different to stand out. Or maybe you want to pick a popular one so that you'll always find an opponent. Around me, not many people run Sylvaneth, so I get to be the tree guy in my community, which kind of makes my army feel special. Check if your army is running free on Index, or if you need a battle tome. Index rules are easy and free to grab to get you started, while battle tomes usually mean deeper lore and allegiance abilities, but they cost extra and sometimes go out of stock. Also think long term. Armies tied to major characters like Alarielle for the Sylvaneth are usually safe bets for future updates. I also want to mention that sometimes you'll find armies that check almost every box but fall short in some of the extras. For me, that was the Lumineth Realm Lords and the Hidden Deepkin. Their lore is incredible, the models are some of the best Games Workshop has ever made. Lumineth even have Teclis, one of the god tier centerpieces. Hidden Deep Sea's aesthetic and storyline really is just amazing. But here's the problem. Both armies are challenging when it comes to availability and painting. Kits aren't always easy to find, and painting them takes a lot of time, patience, and skill. For me, that tipped the scale. As much as I love the lore and the sculpts, I knew I'd get frustrated trying to paint and even find the models. That's why I passed on them, at least for now. So, these extras, budget, painting, community, support, and availability, might not seem exciting, but they're what keeps you from burning out. Ask yourself, can I afford to span this army over time? Will I enjoy painting it over and over and over again? Will I find people to play against? Will this army still be supported in future editions? And sometimes it means walking away from an army you love and the lore because the reality of collecting and painting it doesn't fit your situation. And that's okay. You want an army that inspires you, and one that you can realistically enjoy. Alright, before we wrap up today's episode, I want to share something special. To celebrate the launch of Rolling Recklessly, and I want to give back to the community, I'm running a giveaway. I'll be giving away one box of Nurglings, one of the most iconic and fun kits in the Maggot of Nurgle army. And there's a reason I picked the Nurglings. They're not just goofy and full of character, they tie back into my very own Warhammer journey as well. When me and my girlfriend Casey first got into the hobby, she chose Nurgle while I chose the Sylvaneth. Those two armies have been part of our story from the beginning, so it felt right to give away a piece of them. Here's how you can enter. Follow Rolling Recklessly Podcast on Instagram, like the giveaway post, tag 3 friends who are into Warhammer, and then comment your favorite Warhammer faction and tell me why in a sentence or two. The giveaway is US only and is not affiliated with Games Workshop or Instagram. Their winner will be selected on October 1st, or once the account hits 250 followers, whichever comes first. So if you want a free box of Nurglings and to help grow the podcast, jump right in and enter. So to recap, when you're starting an army, think about these 5 things. Number 1, the rule of cool. What excites you? 2, accessibility. What you can actually get your hands on. 3, playstyle. How they feel on the table. 4, the lore. What inspires you? 5, extras. Budget, painting, community, and support. For me, Sylvaneth checked all of those boxes. For you, it might be the Stormcast, Nurgle, Seraphon, or something totally different. The important thing is finding out an army that you'll love building, painting, and playing for years to come. Because when all of those elements line up, this hobby is one of the most rewarding things out there. Thanks for listening to episode 2 of the Rolling Recklessly podcast. Don't forget to check out the Nurglings giveaway on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next one. And remember, may your crits be high, your paint never dry, and your rolls ever reckless.